The retirement gift. I spent 6 months searching for the perfect retirement gift for my father, a Rolex watch. Not because he had asked for it, but because I wanted him to know that every sacrifice he had made raising us had been worth it. At the retirement party, surrounded by family, friends, and former coworkers, I handed him the box. He opened it, read the engraved inscription, "Thank you for everything." For a moment, everyone smiled. Then my father looked directly at me and said something I never expected to hear. "Do you think money buys love? You'll always be last." The crowd fell silent. I smiled, and silently picked up the gift. My name is Emilia Paredes. I am 33 years old, and for almost my entire life, I believed that if I worked hard enough, loved enough, and gave myself completely, one day my parents would see me the way they saw my younger siblings. It never happened. From childhood, I was the responsible one. If something needed to be done, I did it. If someone needed help, I offered it. When my brother forgot his obligations, my parents laughed and called him carefree. When my sister made mistakes, they called her spontaneous. When I succeeded, they said it was normal. After university, I built a solid career in financial consulting. I bought my own house, paid off my student loans, and silently helped my parents whenever they needed it. I never complained. I told myself that family wasn't a competition. Then my father announced his retirement after 41 years working for the city council. We were all excited, myself included. Despite everything, I loved my father. I wanted his retirement to be memorable. So I organized the family gathering. I paid for the catering. I handled the decorations. I rented a tent when the forecast called for rain. And 6 months before the party, I bought something I hoped would mean something to him, a Rolex. It wasn't about the price. It was about gratitude. On the back, I had 4 simple words engraved: "Thank you for everything." The celebration took place on a warm Saturday. More than 60 people attended, former colleagues, neighbors, relatives, friends. Everyone gathered in my parents' backyard, sharing anecdotes about my father's career. For a while, everything felt normal. Then the usual pattern emerged. My brother arrived almost 2 hours late. My father greeted him like a celebrity. "There he is," he shouted. Everyone laughed. Shortly after, my sister arrived with a store-bought dessert. My mother spent 10 minutes praising her gesture. Meanwhile, no one mentioned the months of planning behind the event. I tried not to let it affect me. That day wasn't about me. It was about my father. As evening fell, my father stood up to give a speech. People applauded. Several former colleagues shared memories. Then someone suggested the family present their gifts. My heart pounded. This was the moment I had imagined for months. I walked to the front with the small green Rolex box. The crowd fell silent. My father seemed surprised. "What is this?" he asked. "Just to thank you." I handed him the box. He opened it slowly. The watch gleamed in the evening light. Several guests held their breath. My father turned it over, reading the inscription. For a second, I thought he would be moved. Then his expression changed. The smile vanished. He looked directly at me and said something that left the entire garden silent. "Do you think money buys love?" I blinked, confused. "What?" He shook his head. "You've always believed that gifts fix everything." Several guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. I felt the heat rise to my face. "Dad, that's not." He interrupted me. "You'll always be last if you think this is what family means." No one spoke. Not my mother, not my brother, not my sister. The silence weighed heavier than any shout. I looked around the garden. Dozens of people stared at the ground. My father closed the box and handed it back to me. For the first time in my life, something inside me became completely serene. No anger, no tears, no argument, just clarity. I smiled calmly, reached out, and took the gift. "You're right," I said quietly. Then I turned around and left. Behind me, I heard my mother calling my name. I kept walking. No one realized that, as I drove home that night, I made a silent decision. And in less than 72 hours, my entire family would discover exactly how much they had taken me for granted. The morning after the party, I woke up to 12 missed calls. 7 were from my mother, 3 from my sister, 2 from my brother. I ignored them all. For years, I had convinced myself that my parents simply didn't notice how much I did behind the scenes. After that speech, I finally accepted the truth. They did notice. They just didn't value it. What no one at that party understood was that I didn't just occasionally help my parents. I managed a considerable part of their lives. 3 years earlier, when my father started talking about retiring, I got involved. I arranged meetings with financial advisors. I reviewed insurance policies. I helped restructure debts. I managed investment paperwork. I monitored deadlines. I coordinated appointments. I even maintained detailed retirement planning files because the process overwhelmed my parents. I never asked for recognition. I did it because they were my family. But after the party, something changed. I didn't cancel anything important. I simply stopped doing a job that was never really my responsibility. On Monday morning, I sent a single email. It contained passwords, account information, contact lists, and instructions for everything I had been managing. Then I stepped away. The problem arose faster than I expected. By Tuesday afternoon, my mother had called 17 times. By Wednesday morning, my brother finally got through. "Emilia, what's happening? What do you mean? Mom says you stopped handling Dad's retirement paperwork." "That's right." Silence. "You can't just quit." I laughed softly. "I wasn't employed, Daniel." "That's not the point." "No, that's exactly the point." He hung up. The calls continued. By Thursday night, my phone showed 71 missed calls. Apparently, several important deadlines were approaching. There were documents to sign, appointments to confirm, pending insurance updates. No one knew what to do. For years, they had assumed those things resolved themselves by magic. Now they were discovering who had really been doing the work. On Friday afternoon, my mother showed up at my front door. The moment I opened it, her eyes filled with tears. "Emilia, please." I stepped aside and let her in. She sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I had spent countless nights organizing her paperwork. "I didn't realize everything you did." I nodded. "I know. We need your help." There it was. Not "we miss you." Not "we hurt you." Just "we need your help." I looked at her in silence. "Do you know what hurt me the most?" She looked down. "The watch?" "No." I breathed slowly. It was hearing Dad say I would always be last. Tears rolled down her cheeks. A long silence filled the room. Finally she whispered, "He was wrong." Was he? She couldn't answer, because we both knew the truth. For years, my brother and sister had received endless opportunities, praise, and attention. I had received responsibility. The next night, my father called. For the first time in my life, he sounded unsure. "Can we talk?" I agreed to see him. We sat on a bench in a park overlooking a small lake. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then he let out a deep sigh. I handled it terribly. I looked at the water. "Why did you say it?" He rubbed his hands. "Because I felt ashamed." I looked at him. Ashamed? The gift was incredible. More generous than I deserve. He swallowed. And instead of feeling gratitude, I felt guilt. For the first time, I saw genuine remorse. "I spent years taking you for granted, Emilia." Those words weighed more than I expected. He continued softly. "You were always the one who showed up." I started just expecting it. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then he added, "I'm sorry." It wasn't a perfect apology. It didn't fix anything by magic. It was simply honest. And somehow, that mattered. Over the following months, I maintained my boundaries. I stopped carrying responsibilities that belonged to other adults. My parents learned to handle their own affairs. My brother and sister finally started contributing more. Little by little, things improved. Not because I had bought a Rolex. Not because someone felt guilty. But because, for the first time, I stopped accepting a place at the back of the line. And the best gift I gave myself wasn't that watch. It was finally believing that I deserved something better.